Heard in our lead story for most of this evening, the DA's motion of no confidence in President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet has failed. All ANC MPs voted against the motion. The official opposition believes the governing party has failed South Africans. DA Chief Whip Natasha Mazzoni had some choice words for the ANC, calling them an absolute disgrace. Mazzoni joins us live now. Mazzoni, Natasha, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Fair to say you're disappointed in the outcome of the vote tonight?
Yes, but I think we all knew that we were, the odds were stacked against us. But the fact of the matter is it takes a lot of courage to talk truth to power. And there were some truths that needed to come out, and they needed to come out in the open. And following the Zondo Commission and the findings that Judge Zondo has made, it's clear that we have an unfit and improper cabinet. And believe you me, if Parliament allowed, and I wasn't going to be called a vulgarian, I would have had a few more choice words to use to describe our cabinet. But I'm very happy that 131 MPs voted against a cabinet which can only be called a cabinet of poverty. Today, seeing that unemployment reaches new highs, finding out that 7 children died of malnutrition, this is something that we simply cannot allow to carry on. And the cabinet has to be held accountable for their inactions in getting the country right in any way, shape or form.
Now, there was always a chance that this motion of no confidence was going to fail in terms of the numbers. Is the fact that you were able to use this motion of no confidence to again put the spotlight on those failures, do you take solace enough in that? Is that a positive enough for you?
I'm very pleased with the way the day went, actually. I think that we were able to say what we needed to say. I do think that the voting was an absolute sham. We had 65 different ways of electronic voting that we could have used, but we chose this manual form of voting, which I think is just mad. The DA proposed the OPA vote system, which we used and proved was possibly one of the best ways to do a ballot online. And I do want you to take special notice of something, please. Please have a look at the ANC members when they were asked to turn on their cameras. They were all in the same room. We believe that they were at a hotel in Strand Street where they had been herded together, and their whips were making sure that they voted a certain way. So I think that if voting had been done in a proper fashion, the outcome tonight would have certainly been a lot different.
Now, you were supported in terms of voting by the EFF, the Freedom Front Plus and the UDM. What do you make of that? Is that a positive for you? I mean, it's not like you always sit on the same side of the campfire.
No, certainly ideologically we couldn't be more completely different if we tried. And I think that's the problem that we have in Parliament, is that we don't often put aside our ideological differences and look at what's best for the country. But it's undeniable that the cabinet that we have at the moment is simply inept. They are an absolute disgrace. And I think that the burning down of Parliament was almost a sign of things to come. Things have gone from bad to worse. And I think it was a big wake-up call for our president as well. One couldn't help noticing also the easiest way to get out of voting when you're in a difficult position is to not be in the room or not be online when the vote happens. And I noticed straight away that ANC Chief Whip Phemi Mabojina had been left out of the room. She claimed that she had gone to the bathroom. Well, I had also gone to the bathroom, and I made it back in time for voting to start. So I think it's very telling. Also, the reaction that I got from people like Lindiwe Zulu, the blatant racism and the attacks that we got from her, that we certainly got under their skin. And I think, if anything, the cabinet knows that more than ever, we are holding them to account, and we are going to be keeping an extra close watch on every single move they make.
We know from watching Parliament very closely that what we see play out in the official halls is not really always a reflection of the relationship that parliamentarians have with each other in the hallways around the assembly and so on. And a lot of it can be quite collegiate at times. Was there Were there any members of parliament from the ANC who gave you a sense before this vote that in as much as they're following the party line, they too are not happy with the performances of some of their cabinet and indeed the president?
Yes, there were. People are talking. It's an open secret that the ANC is very fractured. It's a very toxic environment. A lot of them don't feel safe. People are scared to talk out. And I used in my speech the example of an exemplary MP by the name of Daphne Ranto, who had the guts to come out and chair the state capture inquiry into ESCON. And her reward for exposing this unbelievable amount of corruption was to be fired on the spot. She finished her term, never to return again. So one does have an element of understanding that, jobs are at stake. But what really disappoints me is members like Pravin Gordhan, who claim to be beyond reproach and claim to have fought state capture, very happily voted, knowing that many of his colleagues that sit alongside of him in the cabinet have been mentioned, and there is indisputable evidence against them at the Zondo Commission. He did not come out and vote against the cabinet. So it's very much like when we had the motions of confidence against Jacob Zuma, and no one the ANC voted against them. They put the party first and the country second, and we can never allow that to happen.
Just in closing, before I let you go, the news cycle in South Africa moves very, very quickly. There would have been a lot of focus on this vote in the lead-up when there was the attempt to have it done in secret, and then, of course, now the news coming out that the motion of no confidence has failed. What do you do now as the opposition party, or as the opposition parties who stood together and voted for a motion of no confidence? What do you do now with this? Do you use this as a stick with which to continue beating the ANC when you go out and speak to constituencies and try and show them that this is what the ANC is doing? Can you see they voted to keep these inept cabinet ministers in place? They've got these SOEs that aren't performing. Is that what you do with this kind of thing? What happens next?
Well, what happens next is that we simply hold the ANC to account in an even stronger fashion. Obviously there are MPs who claim to be beyond reproach, and cabinet members who claim to be beyond reproach themselves. And I think that what we need to do is educate the South African public as to exactly how much power these cabinet ministers have, how much power they have in their different portfolios. And I think we need to continue to remind South Africans that there are billions of rands spent on their security, while the rest of us are constantly at risk in the country. They enjoy perks that no one else in the world enjoys, and we have the largest cabinet in the world. And I mean, it's bizarre when you think that a country like America or Brazil or India have 28 ministries, and we have this overinflated, bloated cabinet where people are rewarded with cabinet positions instead of being thrown into jail. And I think that what we need to do is continue telling the truth and making sure that South Africans understand that the liberation movement has now become the oppression movement.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. The DA is Natasha Mazzoni, joining us live there from Cape Town. We thank her for her time this evening.